Okay, so what we have in front of us is a cost benefit analysis. It is an evaluative tool that you can use to evaluate any event or issue or project. However, please remember, anything within this you can classify using SESPEN, or you can classify using temporal classifications, long-term and short-term. These classifications can be given different weightings. A weighting is where you give something more importance. For example, anything that is a social cost or benefit could have a value that is twice that of an economic one. That is an example. It is not necessarily applicable for this piece of work. Likewise, long-term impacts could have a higher weighting than short-term impacts. This is something for you to consider. An example of what that might look like is scoring it out of 10 or 100. That's entirely up to you. All right, so in the event section, we would put the event. Also in the event, as I've highlighted on one side, you give an idea of what the purpose of this event is. So that's where, from that background information and from other stuff, it's basically, it will be classified as a social event. The social event is to safe family entertainment, and also for whichever charity it is, I can't remember the name. Okay, so that's the event. In that piece of writing there, already I've set up the fact that I've classified it. I've given some information saying how it's a social event. I've said it's fundraising, so I might also, if I'm feeling really sneaky, chuck in the fact that it has a secondary purpose as an economic event, because it's raising money for charity. All right, so what we're going to do now, and this is where you can have, if you're really, really brave, you can say something and your point can go up on the board and your name can be ever recorded on this. So we're looking at the costs. So what I've done here with the costs is, so one of the negatives, one of the costs of Christmas in the park is the noise. It's loud. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. So I've given that a score of 3 because whilst it's a cost, what we know from the Resource Management Act is that all sound has to stop at 10 past 10 or something like that, okay? So I've then classified that cost with S, which is social. So that is a low-ranking social cost. That is a short-term cost. It only happens on that night. It only happens between the time of whatever, 6 o'clock and 10:10. If you're looking for your excellencies, that's a kind of level of detail you might chuck in there. I can't remember the times off the top of my head. All right. And all I've done there is I've chucked in that categorization. Yeah. The benefit over this side is an income for the charity. For those charities, if you look in some of the backgrounds reading, it says it's one of their main, it's about 10 to 15% of their annual fundraising. So something like $100,000 traditionally goes from Christmas in the Park. Again, fact check that figure. I'm not necessarily convinced. It just sounds like a really good figure and quite impressive. So you need to fact check it. So that means high benefit, economic. This one, it's both long and short term. It's short term because they get that sum every year. Christmas in the Park, and it gives that yearly funding, which is a short-term thing. Christmas in the Park has been going on for 26 years, I think, which means it has a long-term benefit to the charities. Again, fact check the amount. All right, I'm running close to 5 minutes, so I'm going to speed up on the last bit. The interests is where you actually look at the things and say, is it more important that the social interests outweigh the economic costs, or all the benefits outweigh the costs? That's just what goes in the interest bit, or anything that you can think that doesn't fit in the above. And then finally, you might do your adding up, and that leads to the decision: should this event go ahead? Even if you had a score where the costs were higher, if the social interest was a priority, you could just trump the costs by actually saying, yeah, we see that the economic costs are really high, but overall, the social benefits are more important.